grew up on a diet of bread and dripping, as you can see, and the landscape in Sheffield, might surprise you to hear, didn't really look like that. In fact, we had lots of toxic grey skies stimulated by the bustling steel industry, which is no longer really evident in Sheffield, I'm pleased to say. But that's me pointing at my green conscience. Somewhere along the line, as a youngster in Sheffield, I did develop something of a green conscience, which has stuck with me. And I think it's because I grew up in a very fortunate sort of lifestyle and had the ability to build, back to Eva's presentation, my emotional intelligence along with my academic intelligence. I now have 3 young kids. I've got a 9-year-old, an 8-year-old, and a 5-year-old, all boys. Obviously have a nice peaceful life at home. I go to work for a rest. And I don't want them to grow up with stories like this. And this isn't the bedside story that I want to read them at night, depending on the whims of the current government. Everything's going to be okay. It's all going to be okay. Nor do I want to sort of use my role to sort of sit and deny and push against the tide. I think that too many people sit and do that, especially in that contracts paradigm. But I'm going to explain a little bit why I believe that's the case. So, as I said, the focus for me is very much around giving you the contractor's perspective. So to help me do that, I'd like you to imagine that there's what we call an RFP gone out, which is a request for proposal for work for an open spaces contract. So let's say it's, for the sake of argument, let's say it's in the red zone. And you are the contract owner. You are, in this case, at the moment it would be Linz, in the future it might be Christchurch City Council, and you are interested in getting a contractor of choice for that area. What things, this is contractor bingo by the way, so you can all shout out, what things do you think you would like to see in that contract? What things do you think would be represented? Clive, you've put contracts out like this before, so you tell me, but just shout out, what things would you like to see in that?
Proven history.
Proven history, experience, great, yep.
Forward planning.
Forward planning, yeah, okay.
Price.
Thanks. Price, yeah.
Quality control.
Quality control, yeah. Time frame.
Vision.
Vision, great.
Science.
Science, great. So, look, intergenerational, brilliant. Look, the reality is, and we've mentioned some of them, technology is quite a big one at the moment, and innovation, and how that sort of leads into productivity. Safety is obviously quite important. We don't want to hurt or injure anyone and damage reputation through that. And there is usually, typically, built into a contract arena, there is what I call that corporate social responsibility piece, which does lean into some of the reason that we're here. It leans into carbon footprint, community connection, biodiversity. Probably doesn't go as far as specifying things like urban nature or ecological restoration, but some of that stuff is inherent in the experience. Some of that stuff might be inherent in the visioning. We do employ people that we would expect to have experience relevant to the job that they're conducting. In some cases, that means we employ scientists. But the big, bold reality is that it's all usually about price and productivity, and that's what it comes down to. And that's an unfortunate sort of position, and that's the reality of contracting in local government. So as a result, because it's down to that, contractors tend to try to demonstrate a bit of the other stuff, a bit of that social responsibility stuff, but it really looks like this. All we're doing is painting the funnels green. We're not actually making a real difference in that arena because we're price driven. We're driven by a contractor saying, you've got to mow this 3 times a week. 3 times a month. Mow this place 3 times a month. It's like, well, actually, maybe that place doesn't need mowing at all. Maybe we should be growing that and letting it go a bit wilder to encourage native flora and fauna's come back. No, mow it, 3 times, that's easy for me to manage. You get the picture.
Yeah.
So my role, I didn't specify it before, but my role with CityCare is strategy and growth. So in the context of that, I've taken a bit of sort of poetic license and decided myself, I guess, that I can be an expert in what we need to do from a contracting perspective, that I can become a bit of a sort of passing expert in things like ecological restoration and the importance of the fact that an area the size of the red zone is absolutely perfect to restore from an ecological perspective for a city the size of Christchurch. So I can find that stuff out, I can work with the experts around me, and I can become embedded in my business and lean back into our customer contracts to actually try to change that approach and their approach. What I've learned is that I have to go about this in a fairly subtle sort of way. So I'll often hide behind the alpacas in the business, dressed a little bit differently, and hope that no one will notice. So, my favourite slide. And so one of the subtle approaches that I've been working on and working with a guy called Sam Johnson on, who I think many of you here will probably know, is something called the Community Guardians platform. This is about reaching into the basic principle of how communities, in my opinion, should be and could be run and managed and enabled by a contractor. So you notice the slight subtle difference in the way that presents itself. So we are the enabling function rather than the people that are doing the doing and saying, this is my boundary, I've been told to perform a contract to this level and maintain it to this level, and your opinion really isn't valid in that because I'm under instructions. So it's building a culture of shared responsibility. The platform was born out of a relationship with Sam long before I arrived at CityCare, which is linking up with the Student Volunteer Army. Student Volunteer Army based out of University of Canterbury really came onto their own and was formed by Sam post-earthquake out of the need to just get out and do something. CityCare was also getting out and doing something, and a sort of healthy relationship was born out of that, which has sustained now 7 years, which is great. And we still work closely with Student Volunteer Army, and we sort of enable 2 to 3 significant volunteer events a year. But again, the sort of direction's coming more from them, and again, we're not really sort of focusing on the root problem as far as I'm concerned. We're still working around the fringes. So what we decided to do was actually expand that relationship and to really try to see where we could go. I thought you didn't have fun. You're doing well, Nige. Keep going. How do we get more people involved who are already passionate about their community? That's a great picture as far as I'm concerned. I wasn't here at that time. That is obviously post-earthquake. But these people are here in this room. These people are out there in and around the community, and these people are the ones that have the emotional intelligence, and they often also have a lot of skills and passion for the community that they're involved in. I'm looking at Evan as I'm speaking because Evan's just been recognised for his input into this arena by royalty, no less. So congratulations to him. I think that's worth a round of applause. So there are a number of people around. There's a guy called Brian who's in the red zone, Brian Fairburn. He was in one of our contracts in the red zone, and instead of sort of pushing him to one side and saying we are now contracted to mow the red zone, we wrapped our arms around him and said, how can we support you, enable you to do what you are clearly passionate about doing? I'm disappointed to say that we only have been successful in doing it to a point, but I'm excited to say that I think that Brian can become quite an ambassador for us when we really push the Community Guardians platform brand. So I'm mindful of time. I'm keen to talk to anyone that wants to hear more about the Community Guardians platform and to challenge it and let us know your thoughts on it. And I'm mindful of the reach there into ecological restoration, urban nature, biodiversity, but there is a link in that, because by enabling people who are in this room and just being there to help facilitate some of those bright ideas that are coming through, some of the people that have great emotional intelligence for the landscape in that arena, that's where we can get real juice, I think, and that's why a contractor is interested. Why I'm personally interested, as I said, I've got 3 young kids, that's the youngest there. I want them to grow up in the right world, and I think we all know that. So, thank you.